want to get good at something, you got to put your time in, and there's no magic formula. It's hard work. The problem with golf is it takes a long time between shots. You're out on the course for 4 or 5 hours, but it's only taking you 20 seconds to hit each shot, and for those 20 seconds you need to focus. Great players have the ability to see what they want to do, recall positive thoughts in their mind, and then execute. It's about execution.
What separates the top of the pack compared to like the people in the middle of the pack?
The kids that I've seen through the years that, let's just say, make the D1 golf, they're the ones that get dropped off. They're there all day and they just never stop. Highly motivated individual kids like that, they're going to succeed in pretty much any field.
What are some advice you can give to your athletes as far as like, hey, to move forward from like having a bad performance in one hole and be able to move on?
Great question. Great golfers have to have the ability to bounce back, okay? It's a game of misses, and you have to realize that positive attitude in golf goes a long way because it's such a negative type of sport where you do hit so many bad shots. You can't let that affect your performance or your next shot.
Do you think you're able to spot that kind of drive early, or is there something that can be taught? All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Mile Connect podcast. Today we have a friend of the show, Brian Dobbie, who is a golf pro. He's been at Trump National for the past 5 years, and he is just well-versed when it comes to golf. But really, when it comes to mental training, he is so good at getting people to perform when they need to perform, especially at a high stake like a golf tournament. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Natty, great to be here.
So, yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of intro, but can you tell the listener a little bit about your background? How you end up at Trump National? How did you become a golf pro?
Okay, how I got involved in golf, it started when I was about 10 years old. My father, we lived in Maplewood, New Jersey, and then all of a sudden we're moving down to Middletown, New Jersey, and my father was the superintendent at the golf course at Navison Country Club. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden I'm in this new world on a golf course, and I started working for my dad and then caddying and stuff and then playing the game, and it just grew from there, and I've been on a golf course pretty much ever since. So that was my start in golf, and I've loved it since day one.
Okay, so for the people who are listening, and we have a lot of kids who are actually picking up golf now, and they love doing it because they get to hang out with the guys, they get to go out, spending some time together, see the field. Like, what are some couple things that you want to let them know about what is golf, and how do you go about enjoying the longevity of playing this sport?
For kids today, I find that kids that play with their friends, they get involved with it more. If your friend's doing it, they're going to do it. Golf's an isolated type of sport, so you need to be comfortable being by yourself to practice golf a lot of times. But if your friends are doing it, it really works. And golf's hard. You have to spend a lot of time doing it. And I think the younger you start, just like anything else, you'll pick up the game. You have to take lessons, but you have to do it a lot. And just like any other sport, the more you do it, you're gonna succeed in the long run. So yeah. So
I know you work with younger athletes. What's the youngest you work with right now?
Well, we've got kids, 4 and 5 years old starting out. We start them out with basic movement patterns and stuff, trying to get them to hit things and move their bodies like a golfer. But basically, a good age for a junior golfer is, I'm going to say, more like 7 or 8, where they're strong enough to actually hold the club and have that skill set to, hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. So 7 and 8's a good time, and that's plenty of time. Earlier than that, there's not a lot you can do. Just have fun out there, though. Get kids on a golf course, get them used to the environment and stuff like that, and that's always a good start.
Okay. Now, since you work with a lot of high-level athletes as well, what separates the top of the pack compared to like the people in the middle of the pack?
The top of the pack in golf are highly motivated, self-starting kids that they're dropped off at the club at 8 o'clock in the morning and they stay there till 8 o'clock at night. They don't need a lot of people telling them what to do. They know what they want to do. They're practicing, they're playing all the time. The kids that I've seen through the years that, let's just say, make the D1 golf, they're the ones that get dropped off. They're there all day and they just never stop. Highly motivated individual kids like that, they're going to succeed in pretty much any field.
Do you think you're able to spot that kind of drive early, or is there something that can be taught?
Great question. I think anything can be taught, but I think if you're looking at the high level athlete, whether the sport's golf or baseball or any other sport, I think they're already motivated. They love it. They're focused. They want to learn. You have to have that passion to learn, whatever it may be. But I think part of that's inside the person already. But you could learn it. Maybe you get inspired by somebody along the way. We all have mentors and stuff. I know I had mine that, I would hang out with certain people and they would inspire me to work harder and stuff like that. So I'm going to say it's probably 75% in you already, but I'm sure there's people along the way that get that fire going. You know what I mean?
So, well, with golf, clearly there's a lot of, mental component involved. And if you're having a bad day on a course or like on one hole, like what are some advice you can give to your athletes as far as like, hey, to move forward from like having a bad performance in one hole and be able to move on?
Great question. Great golfers have to have the ability to bounce back. Okay, it's a game of misses, and you have to realize that. And if that's not in you, knowing, I don't have to hit it perfect, but I have to move it forward. And golf's hard. I'm going to hit some bad shots out there. And I think the longer you play, you have to have a good attitude. You have to have a positive attitude. And say, just get ready for the next shot, okay? If you can stay in the moment as a golfer, try to hit each shot as good as you can right now in the present. You're going to succeed more than worrying about shots you've already hit or worrying about the next hole like that. And a positive attitude in golf goes a long way because it's such a negative type of sport where you do hit so many bad shots. You can't let that affect your performance or your next shot.
Mm-hmm. And how do you coach the youngest generation, especially when they're on screen? They get distracted very easily. How do you get them to be dialed in?
Okay, so that takes practice, okay? The kids today are kind of programmed to have a phone on their bodies or in their pocket and stuff like that. They always have access to it. You've got to say, okay, look, that phone is for that 4-hour round is not part of the equation. You have to let it go, put it in your bag, shut it off, refocus, kind of get into your own golf world and stuff. But that's something that needs to be taught, especially with kids today in this generation, because that's all they're used to. They're used to going to their phone. The minute they wake up, they're on their phone and stuff like that. But it's going to be a distraction on the golf course, and you have to learn to find another way around that and get into your own focused bubble to play golf, to play good golf.
And like stuff at home, like what do you usually teach your athletes to like enhance their, mental performance when it comes to being focused?
At home, a few things like visually. Are you watching videos that imitate a perfect golf swing and stuff? I think having a good visual image of what you're trying to do with a golf club can help you perform that way. So I have my students look at some cyber vision tapes. If it's neuralistic programming of the mind and stuff, it's been around since the early '80s. And by watching those videos, 5-6 minutes a day of the golf swing, it kind of embeds a nice image into your mind and things like that. And also just try to have a game plan that you can think about at night, about how you're going to play the course and stuff. Visualizing, I think, is very important in golf. Visualizing the course you're going to play, your target, how you're going to play certain shots and stuff. So those are things we try to teach the kids.
Mm-hmm. What are some basics right now that you think the parents could tell their kids if their kids wanted to pursue golf as like a scholarship?
Definitely have to take lessons. Okay, golf's really hard to learn on your own. Having access to a golf course is important too. If we don't have access to a private club, is there a public course around you? And it's something you have to do a lot. If you want to play in high school and then college, you're going to have to play a lot. And then nowadays, there's so many junior tournaments out there in the state and nationwide. A lot of juniors are playing these tournaments now. They're getting ranked and stuff, and college coaches are looking for their performance levels and stuff. So you have to really get out and play a lot. And it's just like any other sport. You have to perform. You have to keep trying to get better at it each year, and be patient. It takes time. It takes. I have a 10-year rule for kids. If you start a kid at seven years old, it takes about 10 years to become a pretty good athlete in any sport. So be patient. And enjoy the ride. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and try not to get burnt out. A lot of kids today get too one sport focused, and I don't think that's very good. I think kids, early ages should be playing multiple sports and learning different skill sets and stuff. Don't get burned out. Don't get burned out. A lot of kids do too much in one sport too early. They get tired of it, and by the time they're 13, 14, they're tired of it. So pace yourself.
Do you see any correlation of all high level athletes? Let's say Steph Curry, right? Pretty good golfer. Yeah. Brady, those guys. So you see correlation. People are better at other sport. Do you see any, transition from one sport to golf?
I think through my years of teaching golf, I think hockey is probably a good transitional sport for golf because it's a rotary sport. You're hitting something. Plus, hockey players are very strong in their hands and stuff. And gripping a golf club, having strength in the hands really is important to control the club face. I think hockey is probably the number one sport, I would say, that transitions into golf better than off the top of my head, I can't think of another sport other than hockey that would do it because again, Natty, golf is how many things are you doing with two hands together? The pattern, hockey players kind of have their hands down, they're hitting something, and it's that rotary action, hand-eye is really good for golf also.
Mm-hmm. What I love is that when earlier this year you came in and gave us a nice in-service of how you screen golfer, and you were just so attentive to details. And me as a physical therapist, I love that just because we're kind of speaking the same language, right? Because you understand that you need to rotate your spine, you have good shoulder mobility, hips mobility, be able to load. How important is it for the individual who like to play golf and to keep playing as long as possible to keep working on their mobility, their flexibility, their core strength?
Great question. It really depends on the age group. Let's just start with junior golfers. As you know, juniors have plenty of mobility, plenty of strength. Okay, they probably need a little bit more core stability and stuff in their training programs. And then as we get older in golf, what happens? We start to lose our mobility and flexibility and stuff like that. We lose speed, and the club head speed goes down. So depending on the golfer, I'm just going to say junior golfers need a lot of more stability in their body, core strength, stuff like that. And then as we get older, we definitely need to increase, our muscle strength, our speed, flexibility, mobility, because once the golf swing starts to get short with our body, we start to lose more speed and power, and then the game declines once that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just from a third person perspective, right? Because I don't play, and I like watching Tiger because he's always fun to watch. I feel like he was one of the first person to introduce physical training, being a little bit bigger than normal, and how does that influence the world of golf now?
It's Tiger pretty much started all that in early 2000s. Okay, that's when golf was starting to change to, hey, I better start working out and stuff, especially with the senior tour. I'm gonna say it kind of started with Tiger, but the senior tour players were just starting out, and they were saying, hey, here's my chance to play longer with my career, but I've got to physically be able to do it. Mm-hmm. So the fitness craze in golf started with that, and then obviously with TPI, Titleist Performance Institute, started, Dr. Greg Rose and stuff, and they've done a world of help for everybody nowadays. And how's it changed the game? Well, we've got bigger, stronger athletes playing the game now than we did in 2000 or in the 1990s and stuff. Now, because of that, the golf people are hitting the ball further. So there's been a trampoline effect here where, now guys are hitting the ball well over 300 yards, and a part of it's equipment, obviously, but you've got a stronger, bigger athlete playing golf now than you did in prior generations. And The game's changed because of that. Hitting the ball further is definitely an advantage if you have control over it. Definitely an advantage.
Can you touch a little bit for the listener about TPI? Because I know what it is, you know what it is. How would you explain what is TPI? Because you use that as part of the assessment.
So TPI was started by Dave Phillips and Dr. Greg Rose, Titleist Performance Institute. And Greg Rose had a background in physical therapy. And he met, I don't know how him and Dave met, but they meshed Dave's knowledge of the golf swing with Greg's knowledge of the physical body. And they said, hey, what can we do to the body to make a better golfer and go hand in hand with the lessons? And in terms of instructors, say, before they came along, hey, we're trying to get a player to do something, but maybe physically they can't do it, okay? So here's that connection between both of them. So, hey, maybe we need to work on the body first before we can work on the golf swing. And it just took off, and it's a great idea. And they've been going strong for years now. And I think it's just part of the total package of any athlete, as you know. If the body can't perform what you're trying to make it do, you're going to get mixed results.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about injuries when it comes to golf.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah.
So, I was a trainer for 15 years myself, and the first goal I had for any student was injury prevention. Obviously we want to evaluate the body, put them on a program, but are we going to do something that hurts them? And in the golf world, just like in any other sport, if you get an injury, you can't play it. So my focus was, if I can get my students through a golf season with no injuries, man, they're going to have more time to practice, have more fun. And who wants an injury? Low back, elbows, knees, shoulders. We have them all in golf, but injuries are big. You don't want to wear out the body and be sitting home trying to recover.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like with golf, with even swinging a baseball bat, right? You generate so much force through your hips, up to your spine, into your torso. And if you do that enough time, there's repetitive stress when it comes to that, right? So how important is it to take care of your body outside the golf course? And what's some advice you can give to the kids and the parents who wants to keep playing the sport?
If you want to keep playing golf, let's talk about the older generation. You want to get yourself a trainer, get evaluated first. I think the key is, there's so many fitness programs out there. I would not start one without, one, seeing your doctor, and then two, getting a physical evaluation and getting on a program for your needs. Everybody has different needs. So that would be number one. Number two, continuity. Keep it going all year round. Your wellness, your health, it's a year. Why stop? Okay, we're all getting older, but if the body breaks down, that's no good for any of us. Health is, who wouldn't give, everything they had for a couple more years of moving around and stuff like this. And then for juniors, again, find yourself a trained professional to work with. Okay, don't go down some road of, I'm going to do this or this, because you don't know if it applies to your specific movement patterns in your sport. So make sure you hook up with somebody that is professional with what they do. They've got good references. They've worked with other elite athletes and stuff like yourself. And, just it's part of your life now. It's just a daily habit, taking care of your body.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously you're in great shape yourself, right? What's your routine? What do you usually do?
Maddie, I'm up at, my kids laugh at me, Dad, don't you ever sleep and stuff? I can't sleep anymore. I don't want to miss out on anything at this stage of my career and life. So I've got two gyms. I've got one in my basement and one in my garage. I kind of started that during COVID and stuff. We couldn't go to the gym anymore. So I said, I need two places to work out. So I've got two gyms, and I'm pretty much up at 5:30 every morning. And first stop is either the basement or the garage, and then I go back and forth. I've got my own programs. I do a lot of mobility work at this stage of my career, and a lot of balance stuff. We tend to lose our balance as we get older, and then weight training. And I do more in the winter, okay? During the golf season, it's more of a maintenance type of phase for me. I can't continue my workout all year. I don't have the time during the season, but during the golf season, it's more of a maintenance time. During the winters and stuff, I put a lot more effort into getting stronger. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Paying off, man. You look great.
Thank you.
What about nutrition-wise?
Oh, you can't talk fitness without nutrition, right? Look, we eat 21 meals a week, okay? Make sure 15 or 16 of them are good. This is, I like balance. I like my ice cream at night too. But if you only have 5 or 6 meals a week that are good and 15 that aren't good, you've got to flip that, okay? Talk to a nutritionalist. What I like to tell my clients, I want to know what you ate for a week in advance. Write everything down that went into your body in a week, and then we're going to look at it, okay? And maybe we have to juggle things around. Let's replace this with this. Let's replace this with this. And then obviously it's about everybody's goals, okay? What's your goal? Do you want to gain weight, lose weight, stay where you are? You might need more protein, more water, whatever. Most people are dehydrated. Most people just don't drink enough water. Yeah. Just changing that would change their lifestyles. Most people, we eat too much sugar, too much processed food. So that's another subsection we could talk hours on, just nutrition. And you're more of an expert on it than I am, but it goes hand in hand with trying to work out. And I'm sure elite athletes, what they put in their body is pretty important to them. And, and also sleep. We could talk about sleep. Most people don't sleep enough for the body to recover. So, you got to work out, you got to, fuel your body, and then you've got to rest. So it all goes hand in hand. We're talking the same thing.
No, it's funny that you mentioned obviously eating and sleeping, because I was just listening to a podcast with this guy who is a expert in like neuropsychologist and neuropsychiatrist, and he was talking about how too much consumption of sugar actually decreases your ability to focus. And, my wife's a neuropsychologist. She always mentions this, where the only time your brain actually get to like kind of replenish itself and flush everything out is while you're sleeping, especially during REM sleep, right? Because you have this thing called your lymph nodes, and they don't flush anything out until you're sleeping. So if you're not sleeping, you're not going to be able to focus. And another thing too, high consumption of sugar, alcohol, too much caffeine, and not sleeping, that's actually going to deteriorate your brain health. And plus, how important is your brain when it comes to golf?
It's you need it. You need to shut it off sometimes for golf. Mm-hmm. That's another thing we could talk about, how to focus on the golf course, right side, left side of the brain, all those type of things. And I'm fascinated by it. How do we get somebody to focus on the right things, internal or external focus, when we perform. But nowadays it's all everything we're talking about. It's for peak performance. Whatever level you're at, whether it's golf or another sport, when you go out to perform, you're looking for peak performance. You might not get it, but at least you're prepared to do it. And nutrition and sleep and taking care of your body and working on the patterns and the skill, all those things go hand in hand. It's like a big pie, and there's many pieces that are part of that pie.
Can we get into that left brain, right brain?
Oh, yeah. So, the ability to focus on a golf course, the problem with golf is it takes a long time between shots. You're out on the course for, 4 or 5 hours, but in reality, the times you hit the ball probably will only take a few minutes. Say you shoot a 70, you're even par, and it's only taking you 20 seconds to hit each shot. And for those 20 seconds, you need to focus. The rest of the time, you need to divert your mind to something else so you just don't drain yourself of energy. You'll burn out there, but great players have the ability to step into their routine, clear their mind, have a clear image of what they want to do with the golf club, what kind of shot they want to hit. And, maybe it's a 30-second routine, but they're better at it than everybody else, just like in any other sport. They have that ability to see what they want to do, recall positive thoughts in their mind, and then execute. It's about execution, okay? And blocking out those negative thoughts or whatever over a golf ball, it's hard. But these are things we teach our students also.
So what's your routine right before you step up?
My routine starts with a cleansing breath. I think you want to play golf in the moment, not in the future and the past with a thought. So what brings you to the moment right now is just your breath, because it's right now. So I'm going to do a cleansing breath, and then I like to see the shot I'm trying to hit, associate with my target, the ball flight. And then from the ball flight, my body's saying, okay, how am I going to produce that ball flight? All right, the pattern, where's the club face? Okay, so I kind of work from the hole out, okay? And I don't want any thoughts from the ball to my backswing when I'm playing. Those are internal thoughts that I might be working on during a lesson. But on the golf course, I want my mind's on my target. How am I going to get my ball to my target, the trajectory of the ball, and then I start to feel. So I see it, I feel it, and then I trust it. You have to trust. There's a difference between trusting and training. Okay, during a lesson, maybe we're training our body to do something. But when you're on the golf course, you have to have your mind on the target, and the more you can visualize stuff like that, that's going to make you a better player. And that's hard to do. And a lot of amateurs, they're over the ball thinking about, where my hip has to go, where my elbow has to go. And they're not, the minute you have those thoughts, you're not thinking about the target anymore. So these are some of the ideas we try to teach our students.
Well, I love that, because at the end of the day, the goal of golf is to get the ball in the hole.
As fast as you can.
Yeah.
That's it. And if our focus is on the trouble on a golf course, there's water, there's trees, there's sand traps, stuff like that. We're not focused on where we want the ball to go. Your last thought needs to be, I got to get the ball in the fairway. Then your next thought is, I got to get it on the green. And if we're distracted by the trouble or who's looking at me or my playing partners or the last hole or the last shot, your total attention isn't into that shot. And you need to raise that level of focus up to play your best in anything.
I find a huge parallel with the way you explain in golf when it comes to approaching life.
No doubt. You need goals in life. Okay, so I want to be better at something. What's my goal? Okay, so now I'm going to backtrack from my goal. How am I going to get there? What do I need to do? Who's a successful person at doing what I want to do or what my goal is? How did they get there? Okay, roadmaps are all out there, Natty. There's an old saying, success leaves clues. Okay, look for the clues. Look for somebody that's doing what you want. Say, how did they get there? And there it is. You look at any elite athlete, what are they going to? What's the pattern? Total dedication, total commitment, total focus, right there. That goes hand in hand in business and sports and anything. If you want to get good at something, you got to put your time in, and there's no magic formula. It's hard work.
Yeah,
it's hard work.
Now, I want to, obviously, you're very knowledgeable in what you do. Talk us through about your approach. If someone were to come and start working with you, what's the first day look like?
The first day, let's just say a beginning golfer. I'll give you a couple of scenarios. I like to interview the player. Where are they from? What's your interest in golf? Why are you doing this? What's the why? I want to know what the why is, okay? And then what's the goal? And in golf, I like to say, what's the goal for this year? Because it takes time. If you come to me for an hour lesson, we're going to work on things and have a game plan, but it's going to take a year to possibly get better. Hopefully sooner, but that's how it is. So what are the goals? So say a new golfer doesn't have a pattern yet. They don't know how to move their body yet. So I don't introduce the golf ball at first for a new golfer. I introduce the pattern, trying to get their body to move, shift their weight, and talk about the pivot. The pivot's what the body's doing, and then we'll talk about holding the golf club and stuff like that. And then maybe some visual work with on the screen, looking at a professional golfer to get an image of what they're trying to do. And then I'll say, okay, let me see you swing like that. Okay, and then all of a sudden you start to see the pattern start to change, and they're starting to move their body and stuff. And then, that might take an hour. And that would be a good first lesson for a beginner. And then I do a lot of filming. I want them to see like a before swing and an after swing. Okay. So they start to see, hey, I look like a golfer now. People know what a good golf swing looks like. And then once they see themselves doing it, they internalize it, and then they can do it. So that would be a beginning lesson. It might not be with the ball yet. Somebody that's already a player, say a good player, again, we talk about goals and stuff, but then now we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I want to know everything that's going on. Okay, maybe my putting needs some work. Maybe my short game needs some work. I'll interview them and find out the strengths and weaknesses. And I really think in golf, most people tend to practice their strengths over and over and over because they're comfortable on a driving range, hitting a 7-iron or whatever. They feel good. But until you work on your weaknesses, you're really not going to get better, because once you start to perform on the golf course, your weaknesses are going to come out somewhere in those 18 holes, whether it's a short game that needs work, or putting that needs work, or a bunker shot. It's gonna raise its ugly head out there, and if you don't work on those weaknesses, you're not going to get to the next level in golf. So that would be a more experienced player. And then time. Are you putting in enough time to be consistent in this sport? Are you putting in enough time to reach your goals? So there's a lot of questions going on when I interview a player before we even get to hitting a ball. So everybody's different. Everybody has different goals, but I think it starts with like an interview process. Strengths, weaknesses, why? What's your why to play golf? Just like when you have somebody come to see you, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And you're the coach. You're going to guide them how to get better. You're going to show them the way.
What is a realistic time investment for people to get better at golf?
Okay, so I think for new golfers in New Jersey, because we really only play 6 to 8 months, okay? The season's kind of short. For new golfers, I always say, it's going to take you about 5 years to figure this game out. If you've never been on a golf course before, okay, it's going to take you about 5 years to figure out the intricacies of the short game, the long game, how to play the game, how to get around the golf course, stuff like that. It takes time. Everybody's a little different, but for the average player, you got to give yourself like 5 years to learn this game. It's not easy. There's a lot of moving parts. So that's what I kind of tell people in New Jersey. You're starting out, it's going to take you about 5 years. Don't give it up for 5 years. It's going to take you that long. If you give it up after 1 year, you're not giving it enough time. Giving enough time.
How do you deal with, again, we work with a lot of high-level athletes, and we have parents who tend to be a little bit aggressive on the timeline side, want their kids to get better like yesterday, right? So what are some conversation you would want to have with the parents, if they want to come to work with you?
Parents, their intentions are good, but I really think they need to slow down. Okay, your 6-year-old, your 7-year-old is not going to turn into Tiger Woods this summer. It's just not going to happen. Again, I mentioned earlier, 10 years. It takes 10 years to develop any athletic sport where it's quality performance. And golf's no different. So be patient, drop your kids off, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Don't stay there during the lesson. It makes your kids nervous, okay? You don't need to be there. They're in good hands with the coach or the instructor. Let them find themselves and learn this game, but back off a little bit. It's okay. Have fun. Bring them back for another day. Have some ice cream. There's no pressure. Just keep having fun. If you keep coming back, you're going to get better. But have fun with it. Don't let the kids go a little bit. All right. Yeah. It takes time.
How often do you see kids actually getting burned out from golf? I see a lot in baseball, because baseball travel nonstop. So I see a lot of burnout into baseball. What about with golf?
I see it a little bit with the kids that are competitive now playing in tournaments. There's so many junior events now that kids can play in, maybe at least 2 events a week during the summer. And that's a lot. It's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of getting up early. Your schedule changes, and it's a lot of practice. Okay. And being competitive, it's a lot of mental focus, and you need to have something else in your life to balance it out. Go fishing, go swimming, go to the beach. It's okay to get away from the grind of it, and you don't want kids do. I'm not a big fan of kids overuse of juniors in any sport. I've never been a fan of that because most kids burn out by 13, 14, and they're out of organized sports. So. Again, goes back to patience. It's okay to miss a couple tournaments. Balance it out. A lot of balance. Just plenty of time. And I think the goal when kids get into any organized sports, my kid's going to be this or my kid's going to be that. Odds are they're probably not going to be. Look for any kids. If you look at how many kids make it to D1 sports, it's a very small percentage in any sport. So. Hopefully your kid is that next one. Odds are they're probably not. So enjoy the journey, have fun. And with golf's a lifetime sport. Okay. So you meet so many people, you got the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? But go easy, be patient. Yeah. That's the message.
So Brian, know what you know now. If you could go back in time to talk to your younger self, let's say back when you were like 15, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, wow. What'd I give myself? Man, I was into it back then. I would probably, when I grew up playing junior golf, we didn't have all this stuff. There's a few events in the state you could play in, and it just wasn't the same environment. But what I would give myself advice, man, I'd probably work out a little bit more. I didn't know about it then, trying to get a little stronger. I remember growing up where working out was like a taboo. You didn't want to get muscle bound, they would say. And a lot of kids, we didn't have that knowledge we have today that it could be beneficial for you. So, I had a great childhood. I don't know if I would do anything different. Times have changed, but I was happy and hanging out with my friends. I was playing golf as a kid, hanging out, and I loved it. I just loved it. So I don't know. I would probably advice to myself. Probably. Well, I would say don't take it to heart so much. Okay, I probably put too much pressure on myself, and I really didn't allow myself to have a bad round. If I had a bad round, it would affect me for a couple of days. I would allow myself to have some bad shots once in a while. That's probably what I would tell my younger self. Hey, you're allowed to hit some bad shots. It's okay. That's what I would change.
Yeah, that's like making a mistake. It's normal.
It's normal.
No, I love that.
I was too hard on myself. We all were.
Yeah. All right. So before we wrap this up, how can people reach out to you if they want to start working with you?
Okay. I teach at Trump National in Bedminster. You can reach me there in the pro shop or call my cell. Can I give my cell number?
Yeah.
908-531-3637. That's shoot me a text. Or my email is Brian Dobbie, PGA@yahoo.com. You can find me.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for your time.
Natty, I've enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
That's great. A lot of good advice. And for you guys who are listening and you're serious about golf and you actually want to, beat your friend on a course, I would say definitely get a lesson from Brian.
Thank you, Natty.
Thank you. Thank you so much.